We're back with another S Rank podcast, episode 6, I think.
Episode 6.
That's pretty wild. We're getting up there in our old age, dude.
Soon will be episode 66, then episode 666, and then we can play Diablo IV.
It feels like the right number because being live here on the East Coast, it feels like we're in hell. Like it really feels like, it feels like Blizzard's doing a real time marketing activation where they just made the skies of hell sweep over the East Coast of the United States because. For those who don't know, there's some wildfires happening in Canada, and the smoke is barreling down from Canada to like the entire northeast of the United States. Particularly New York City has gotten hit really bad, and the surrounding area where we both are is been hit insanely bad. It looks like Diablo himself is about to come out of the skies.
Yeah, it's like a very big, very expensive ARG campaign.
Yeah, we have to go outside. Find the Lilith statues outside around New York.
God, it's really insane. Like I've never experienced anything quite like this before. It's like it is literally like red and brown and yellow outside. It smells terrible. It feels like the world's ending, and it's kind of felt that way all day. And I'm inside playing, playing Zelda, talking about video games. Let's go. I've had Diablo on the back burner. It's officially been out for a whole day.
And
I even pre-ordered too. I pre-ordered the deluxe edition, so technically I had access.
The early access.
Well, because I was gonna jump in, and then I was like, "Nah, dog, I got like 100 hours."
You're at the tail end of Zelda now. You're at the tail end.
I think I would guess I probably have about 140 hours at this point. I believe I just got the final mission where it's basically like. Go do blank, and I'm pretty sure that's what it's gonna be.
Well, we all know what the final mission is in this. We all know who you're gonna fight.
A known villain in Zelda games.
Wait, who is the villain in Zelda?
Yeah,
it's
what was the
Beetle, right?
Beetle. Man, if Beetle turned out to be the villain, that
can
would be
you imagine if, like, in a Zelda game, you went to go fight Ganondorf, and like he's standing there, and all of a sudden he just gets fucking clapped. Like a giant hammer or something, like squashed, and then like from above the hammer you just see the camera pans up. It's just Beetle. And you have to fight Beetle to save Hyrule.
Yay! Or like whatever like sound clip he always has.
So fucking stupid.
God.
But yeah, dude, that'll be quite the jump. And then you got to rush Diablo because then in 15 days from now you got Final Fantasy 16.
I know. Oh my God, it's like 3 games that like are going to just consume your time so fully. Like I expect Final Fantasy 16 to be like a pretty big ass RPG.
Oh, dude.
So I think
that's a 200 hour for sure.
Yeah, probably anywhere from like 50 to 200, depending on how like I don't know, completionist you want to be. But I'm finally closing up Zelda.
So you close up Zelda, then you got to play Diablo, straight into Final Fantasy 16. Then at least you'll get to relax. Because you'll just be rushing from that to Pikmin 4.
To Pikmin 4, baby.
And then after Pikmin 4, you'll play Armored Core 6. And then after Armored Core 6, probably Spider-Man.
This is really a crazy year. Like I feel like it kind of came out of nowhere too. Like we knew a lot of projects were coming in the pipeline, but like just the rapidity with which they have started coming out this year. Like they started at the beginning of the year and it's just been like, a nonstop, relentless experience. Yeah.
It's great though. I love it.
It's great to always have something to play. It's just funny that like, when it really starts adding up, I was just like, but I really want to play Diablo. I've been waiting like 10 years for this. And I was like, but I have to finish Zelda. I was waiting like 6 years for this. And
I will say Diablo is great. It's awesome. My only thing that I'm just waiting for more people to catch up to where I am so that I can like have people to grind stuff out. I don't know if I would enjoy the game as much if I wasn't doing it constantly with friends.
Interesting.
I blasted through the campaign. Like I loved the campaign. I finished it at level 50 out of 100 where the leveling like slows down tremendously.
Yeah.
Slows down tremendously around like 40. But like now that I'm there, I'm like, oh, I really want to be doing all these dungeons, all these strongholds with people. I want to like do this stuff with friends. I want to get to 100 mostly in co-op. I don't want to be like, I don't want to be solo the whole time.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Like that's I'm interested to hear more of your thoughts about the game because Diablo is such an interesting franchise. Like it's changed around so much as we've talked about in the past. Like I when I was younger, like I always played it more like a single player kind of thing, where I just the joy of kind of blasting through things in cool dark environments was like the fun. But and then as I got older, I played Diablo 3 with friends, and it's like there's that social part that's super fun too. So I kind of wonder. I'm wondering how I'm going to feel about it when I jump into it. Like, is it something that I enjoy just kind of immersing myself in and losing my time in, or do I want to kind of have it be that MMO sort of grindy social kind of thing? Because it's tough. They're trying to get into a very packed market of service multiplayer games, and I wonder how it's going to shake out.
100%, yeah, and I'm interested too. It's going to be really cool to see. Like it's potentially something where they can update every couple months with really good, like cool story bits, and then you can have seasonal grinds. It'll be really interesting. I had never played Diablo before. I always assumed it had PvP, so to find out now that it's like this is like a new thing for the game, I think it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out too.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
PvP metas and stuff. Will they make like arenas, like kind of like a?
I'm interested in
Souls?
that too because PvP. It's funny, like in Diablo 2, Diablo 2 had PvP, and for some people, like that was actually like the end game for them. But it's funny thinking back because games were so different. Like it was a very basic version of the game was not balanced around it at all, and you would basically like declare war on someone in town, and then you'd both meet out in the world somewhere and just go toe to toe, and you could get corpse camped where you couldn't even get your stuff back because someone was just like absolutely smashing you the entire time. And then Diablo 3 famously launched without PvP, and then later on they were like, oh, here you go, finally some PvP, and it's just like a random little arena in town that no one ever used. So it's basically D3 had like no PvP to speak of. So it's cool. I think it's cool to see them bring it back because I think similar to something like Destiny, like I think PvP is the glue that kind of holds so much PvE stuff together. Like if I'm just grinding a PvE thing forever, I don't enjoy that as much as like there being some way to kind of just be around other players and like be seen, see them, that kind of thing.
I think it's PvE unless it has some kind of setup like World of Warcraft or WoW where it can be based around like raids and raid content and upping the challenge on the like PvE content, right?
Yeah.
Like I think I'm not 100% sure. I just kind of got up to it, but I'm pretty sure that looks like they're borrowing aspects of the mythic dungeons for Diablo 4.
Interesting.
It looks like they have something called nightmare dungeons, and I got an item for like a nightmare dungeon key, which looks almost like it has some kind of similar usage to a mythic key. Yeah, it looks interesting. I'm not sure if it adds like affixes and stuff to the dungeon, but I'm excited to check it out for sure.
Yeah.
It looks really cool.
I know.
So far, I'm having a great time.
I know nothing about like the end game systems in Diablo 4. Like I kind of tried to stay as like little knowledge about it as possible. So all I know of the game is what I played briefly in the beta. So I'm like, oh man, I hope I have a lot to talk about next week. Like, I'm diving into it after so many people have literally put like hundreds of hours into it already. Well, not hundreds, but I mean, many days it's been. But
I'm going to be gone too the rest of this week. So hopefully by the time I'm back, maybe you'll be able to catch. You probably could catch up by then if you just blast through the campaign.
Yeah.
But all right, let's jump over. We're going to come back to Diablo because a lot of interesting things happening with Diablo. But let's jump to something that was announced this week that honestly I think everybody could use this today. Shaking up the industry, but everybody could use a pair of goggles today with all the smoke going on, and Apple just announced the Apple ski goggles. I mean the Apple Vision Pro.
Dude, imagine if you had your Apple Vision Pro, you could go out in the apocalypse now.
Use a MacBook.
See everything.
Yeah, in the depths of hell that is New York. Apple this week introduced the Apple Vision Pro, which they're calling their first spatial computer. I think
that's really cool. I think that's going to help a lot because like the big thing about this is so many people are confused as to what the hell it actually is. Like most people when they think of AR VR, like they think of like an Oculus Quest or something like that. Excuse me, a Meta Quest.
Well, why don't you back it up and give a brief overview of what this is, what it does?
Sure. Yeah. So from what we've seen, this has been rumored to have been in the works for years with Apple's R&D stuff. And Essentially, I mean, I watched the little presentation. I thought it was really cool. It is their approach to basically an entirely new platform for computing, which is how they're trying to pitch it here. You know, it's not just like, oh, you throw on your headset and, you know, play some games. They're saying like, this is, we've done the work to make this headset that you put on as seamless an interaction with like a digital world combining with your environment in, you know, as like a full augmented reality kind of way. And they've, according to, you know, what they've said with the tech specs, like the resolution on this thing is like unbelievable. I think it's like 4K screens in the size of a postage stamp, like per eye. Insane pixel density.
It's insane.
The M2 processor, which is, you know, Apple Silicon, it's incredibly powerful. All that kind of thing to basically say, you know, this is, and this is the thing that I think is going to be such a you know, a hard sell for people who haven't, like, you know, aren't fully, you know, into this scene or aware of what it is like the level of immersion that this can bring, truly like interacting with your environment, is going to be huge for, like, you know, industrial sectors, education, just entertainment, lots of really cool things. And they're pricing it, you know, outrageously high. That's the joke that everybody's obviously touching on right now. It's $3,500 to buy one of these things, which is a lot of money.
People are like offended.
Yeah. And, you know, I can't blame them. Like, I think it's Apple's job right now is to convince people, you know, of what this is and what it's for. And, you know, it's not anyone's fault if they look at this and are just, they don't get it, you know. But I think that similar to what we saw with like the iPhone and you know, big tech platform launches like this that kind of change the way we interact with things and the way we do computing. I think it'll probably take a couple of years for this sort of thing to pick up. But I mean, I just think it's so cool. Like I like that they're calling it a spatial computer. I think that really helps, because for a lot of people, again, you know, you think like, oh, the Meta Quest, that's like, I can buy one of those for like $250, man. Like, why would I spend, you know, $3,000 more dollars on this? But it's like, you know, it's not just a headset to play Beat Saber in. Like, they're pitching it as like, this is literally a full computing work entertainment environment that you live in and interact with, you know, with your hands, with your eyes, with eye tracking, all that kind of thing. So it's, I mean, for me as a software developer and someone who spends a lot of time on the computer, like, it's never quite clicked for me until this presentation, thinking about like the clarity of the screens, like the speed of their processors, to be like, oh yeah, you know, I have like multiple desktops and windows open on my MacBook when I'm working. And it's like, if I could just throw a headset on with a wireless keyboard and, you know, have these screens like floating around me like 100 inches wide in my living room, like, that's pretty cool. You know, $3,500, cool. No, not at launch for me, but, you know, I think it'll come with time. And I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to just be like wildly, you know, fanboy or overly optimistic about it. I love seeing, like, you know, really cool experimental technology come out. And I think Apple hasn't done this in a while, so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's like the start of something that we haven't seen since like laptops and cell phones emerged. I feel like this to me is
for sure
the first step into a new realm of technology. New way of computing, a new way of technology. Like, I just keep picturing this like headset sitting on a completely empty desk, and like that's all it is. You know what I mean? Like,
that's your workspace. You know, that's
your workspace. No more. And you can have like a notepad, because you can still interact with the real world while you're using this computer that's floating in front of you.
Yeah.
I think it might be hard for like mass market to really adopt this kind of tech until it gets to the point where it's like even more compact, like a pair of glasses, like, you know, something like very small. Because this is something you've brought up just from us talking, is, you know, headsets can get uncomfortable after a while. I had pulled up I was looking at a hands-on just before this, which had a lot of details about the thing that I didn't even know.
Yeah.
This is from CNBC. I think the reviewer, who was it? I don't know.
Which is it? I know some of their
Steve Kovac.
Oh, yeah, I think I've watched some of this stuff.
He said around the 30-minute mark. he said, like, every other headset I've tested, it started to feel a bit heavy, uncomfortable at the end of my 30-minute demo.
Mm-hmm.
Which honestly, I'm even surprised that he said that, because this looks insanely trim. I saw a picture. Oh, I meant to send this to you. I saw a picture of the Apple Vision Pro next to the PSVR 2. It's insane how small this thing is. Really? It's like a quarter of the size.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's like a quarter of the size.
Yeah.
It's really small.
That's part of the cost, is like just the R&D that goes into creating components that are this small, relatively speaking. I saw an interesting comment online, which is interesting to see, because like Apple's whole thing is premium quality, and obviously like if they're selling something for this much, they want it to scream luxury. So obviously this thing is made out of like metal, glass, all that kind of thing, but which is great for that cost, but that stuff's heavy compared to plastics and stuff. So it's like, if they made this thing out of like ceramics or plastics or something, it would probably be significantly lighter. But then the trade-off there is like, people will be like, you're selling like plastic headset for, $3,000. So it's kind of like, I don't even know necessarily how you would solve something like that. Oh, wow. We're looking at wow, that is the comparison photo, the PSVR 2 and the Apple Vision Pro. I guess it's kind of floating there. I guess someone just did like a scale.
Here, let me actually do a here. We'll pull the picture up bigger. Hold on.
That's crazy, man.
Insane. That is so much smaller. And like this doesn't.
I'm sure the profile is crazy.
This doesn't even like do it justice, because you can't even see here. Here's a different picture I'll pull up, because you really can't even see how much much more goes into the PSVR 2 up top than the
Let
me see.
I don't know. I think this thing is really gonna, like, once it comes out and it's in people's hands, dude. I think this thing is really gonna
look at the size difference. It's insane.
Wow.
I was a little surprised that the guy in the review said that after like 30 minutes he felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, you're in a demo, you're standing, walking around with this thing. Like, I wonder if you're sitting down comfortably, like using this for 30 minutes, if you'll really feel like fatigue. It looks so light and comfortable, but like I said, I from the hands-on, he mentions a lot of like really interesting things. Basically that the big things were like the eye tracking works fantastic, which in the PSVR 2, the eye tracking also is like a game changer. I think once more people try eye tracking, they'll realize like, oh, I don't need to use a mouse anymore. Yeah, like your eyeballs are so much faster than a mouse. You don't even realize until you're doing it.
Yeah.
The only issue that I find with eye tracking sometimes versus like a mouse is that like you'll look at something, but you'll want to click on like something else. You know what I mean? So like, you'll be like, you'll look at something, and when you go to click it, you'll look at something else. But by the time you've looked at the next thing, that's now the thing you want you're interacting with, because that's what the computer's tracking as the mouse is your eyeballs.
Yeah,
it's an instant jump. So that's like the only adjustment, is that like you have to get used to being like,
that is interesting. There was something I watched a while back. It was like I think MIT or something, some kind of like a research project where they were using like eye tracking to show when someone's like walking, they're hiking, they're walking across like, stepping stones in a stream or something, like where their eyes look and where their body goes. And it's interesting. Humans do, based kind of what you're saying, like people tend to look at something, then look to the next thing, and then carry out the action on the first thing. So like they would look at a rock, look at another one, and then step to the first rock. It's kind of like how your brain picks a target, aims at it, and looks at something else. And it's like, that is interesting, finding ways to kind of like change how we interact with stuff when it's like, oh, is that going against like how the brain physically, looks at and interacts with objects versus, what a camera is doing.
It's 100%.
There's a lot of people getting paid a lot of money to come up with those solutions.
Yeah, 100%. Some other things he mentioned, he said that like the external cameras basically track your fingers for the finger movements, which when I first saw it in their preview video, I was very iffy about it, because I can't imagine not having like a controller or a mouse to go through things. Same. But if he said it works really well, I've heard from other reviewers that it works really well. If the hand gestures and the eye tracking are completely seamless, I think it's going to be like when people were like, how are we not going to have a stylus? You know what I mean? Like,
how do I have a phone without a keyboard? Yeah.
I think this is the next step of that. This really feels to me like when laptops cost $4,000, when DVD players cost $1,500. Like, this is expensive, but this is like the first big step, in my opinion, of human interaction with technology since like the creation of like early laptops or touchscreen phones. Like, this is such a big step, and it's just Gen 1. Like, people are going to look at this and say, this is novelty. Why would I use this? People said the same thing about the iPhone. Like, you know what I mean? It's a leap. Like, you have to take that step, and it's something Apple's, they're known for.
Yeah. That's the funny thing too, is like, the joke is always like, oh, well, Apple does something that other people have been doing for years and then says they invented it. And it's like, I totally get that. They do have a habit of doing that sort of thing. But like, I think it's more so that they take, ideas and stuff that have been out there and learn from it. And then they bide their time and do like an ass load of R&D to release like what they consider to be like the most, like, they're not cutting corners here, man. Like, that thing has about as much technology in it as I think I don't even know if they're going to make money on that thing, to be honest, like based on how much is in there. Like,
I think sales wise, this is going to look really bad. I think it's going to look really bad, but I still think they'll make a Gen 2 and a Gen 3 that'll be more compact and more advanced. And I think they want to see if they can crack that point of mass market consumer,
well, it's the kind of thing where, this, you could almost compare this to what's like their crazy expensive desktop computer, like the Mac Studio or something like that. They've got computers that can go up to like, $10,000 or more. And, your average person, like you want to build a gaming PC.
Those are for like Pixar animators.
Bingo. Like they do have products that are for, enterprise users specifically. And that tech kind of trickles down from there. And like, this is not just competing against, like the the Meta Quest. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg. The Meta Quest, or like, the PSVR for games and stuff. This is competing against Magic Leap, for interacting with like architecture designs, the Microsoft HoloLens, like lots of industrial uses that those things cost thousands and thousands of dollars. Yeah. So this is like blowing those out of the water and is about the same money or less amount of money. So it's like, it's got its purposes, I think.
You put 5 of these in an anatomy class in college. You know what I mean? Like,
the use cases
you get 3D car models over to automotive trade schools. Like, these are tangible ways people can learn in a new way. Like, this is like some of the demos I've seen. It's like, or some of the demos that have been released, like, from the way people are talking about it firsthand and the demos that we've seen, it's like truly some Tony Stark shit. Especially the way you can actually interact with 3D models. Like, just pull them out, make them bigger, smaller, like pull them apart. It's insane. The last thing I'll say is, and then we'll relate to how this can actually impact on gaming, which I am very interested to see how this will lead into new things for games, whether they're AR games, VR games.
Yeah,
I think we'll see. I think we're going to see some really cool stuff. But the one thing this guy said in his review was, as someone who has tried just about every mainstream headset to date so far, I can tell you that the Vision Pro feels like a $3,500 machine. So he's saying, the crowd groaned when the price was announced, but this headset feels like it's worth the price. He said it's much more advanced than its next closest competitor, Meta's Quest Pro, which, if I'm being honest, I don't even think that's a competitor. I don't think there is a competitor to this. I think the competitor to this is like what you said. I think it's Microsoft's HoloLens.
Yeah, industrial level stuff, in the thousands.
But I'm debating if I want to get one. I might start putting some money away. It's really expensive. Yeah. But like, the thought of me using it, I don't know. I need to see more hands-on stuff. I'm trying to decide, like, because it is a bit novelty. Like, but I bought an iPhone 1. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the kind of person, I get so addicted to like the newest steps in tech. That I just want to be there when it's out. And I have a MacBook. Like, I can use that instead. But I don't know. Like, I'm really interested. I'm really interested. Even if it's just for me to like watch TV on the couch with my stupid ski goggles strapped down while I'm answering messages, but I want to
Yeah.
see.
Dude, you can be that guy walking down the street with your googly eyes popping through the front of that set.
Yeah, dude. On the plane.
And they got Disney. They brought out Big Bob Iger
That was
on
hilarious.
stage to say, hey, this thing is pretty sick.
This thing's
And
pretty
we're going to
sick,
make
yeah.
some content for it. So you got Disney. You
I
can
think over
be
the
a superhero or something. I don't know, whatever.
I think over the next few months we'll see a lot of big brands coming out with partnerships with Apple for this
Yeah.
thing. I think we'll see like smaller
Yeah.
devs announcing really cool apps for this. I want to see like what apps are made. It's also a huge advantage that like the last 20 years of tech, 15 years of tech have been app creation, because we're kind of
Yeah, that's a
skipping
good
that
point.
whole step of like, oh, we need an app store for this to be viable. That will be there.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting, and that includes games.
Yeah.
And it actually seems like Apple has intent to step into this sphere of games and games in general with the announcement of this product, because at the same, I think it was almost simultaneously, they kind of stealth announced a new like gaming environment. It's something similar to Proton.
This stuff is really interesting. I'm actually very pleasantly surprised by this.
So why don't you give an overview of what they announced? I read over this briefly. I think you have a little more knowledge, but the cool thing that they announced was gaming, something they're calling the game porting toolkit, that I think like anybody can really do. And it allows you to basically like take a Windows based game, run it through this toolkit, and then it just like works on Macs now. And I even right before this, I'm gonna try this after we record. I think someone already has like Diablo 4 running on an M1 Mac Pro.
Wow,
MacBook
this
Pro.
is already available for developers.
Yeah, you can download download the game porting toolkit through Xtools.
I saw a video on Reddit earlier too of someone got like Cyberpunk running already. I mean, it's choppy, insane. But like it's literally just came out. Like,
and they didn't have to modify the game to do anything. It just they just ran it through this and it worked. But so go through what Apple announced for us and give us an overview of what they announced, and also what Proton is, because I think people have like, I think a lot of people don't understand that Mac runs on like something similar to Linux. How like why this kind of matters for Mac users, and how it can expand on like the game environment as a whole.
So I actually think this is really, really phenomenal for a lot of reasons. I think first and foremost is competition. I think I love PC gaming, and Windows has a stranglehold on it. They've had it for years. So the more platforms that can run games and run games well, the better I think we'll all be. But tech-wise, it's really cool to see Mac doing this. They've been releasing amazing hardware with their M1, their M2 chips and stuff. But one of the issues for so many years is that Mac has never been gaming focused, and there's only like certain ports of certain games that run on Mac, all that kind of thing. So it felt silly. Like over the past few years, they've been pushing really hard with like new graphics APIs and upscaling techniques and stuff like that. But it's like, where are the games?
Yeah.
And so at this WWDC, the Worldwide Developers Conference, they showed off one in the new version of Mac OS that's coming. There's kind of like a gaming focused mode that like, prioritizes performance and stuff, which is very cool. But this new tool, so basically Proton is, this is, just an overview I'm not super technically versed on. It's what Valve uses to get the Steam Deck running Windows games natively on Linux. Essentially, it's like a compatibility layer that takes Windows code that's written for Windows machines, Windows hardware, using like DirectX APIs, and it converts it into a manner that runs on Linux in real time. And that's with really good performance, actually. And it's kind of incredible stuff. So you can write a program for Windows or a game for Windows and have it just run on a Linux machine. And it's not proprietary. Valve open sourced it. It's available on all Linux distributions. And so what this is doing for Mac is essentially kind of the same thing, where it's, all like a very, very complex compatibility layer that allows Windows code to run natively on, or, through a translated way on Apple Silicon, on ARM, structured components. And that's huge, because one of the reasons that, software only goes places that people feel there's a way to make money off of it. If they're normally porting stuff, we joke about bad ports all the time, but it's really hard to do. Like, it's very hard to port something from one language essentially into another one. You're translating an entire, software package. So for this, they said in their keynote, normally a port job that could take, weeks or months and an entire team of people with this new tool could take hours or days, and that's pretty insane. Like, again, random people are just getting Cyberpunk running on a Mac. That is not a Mac game. That has never ran on a Mac before, this just came out. So I think it's really cool. People spend a lot of money on these machines, and they should be able to have access to more games, more entertainment, more software. And again, competition is great. I mean, this is really cool stuff, I think.
It's really cool. It's really cool. Like you said, I think for competition, this is going to be huge. I think we'll start to see a lot more Mac ports. They did getting Kojima to come to their WWC keynote and say Death Stranding was coming, and that like future Kojima projects will have Mac ports. That's huge. They couldn't have, the only thing they could have done better was gotten Miyazaki to come and say, FromSoft.
Elden Ring DLC, Mac OS exclusive.
Dude, like that was like getting Kojima to come and say, like, I believe in like making products for Mac going forward. That is like such a strong start to making a push for having games taken seriously on your OS. Yeah. It says in this article that so the tool, the Proton-like tool, like is what we mentioned earlier. It's called the Game Porting Toolkit, and it's like you said, it's insane that we're seeing people like within 2 days already have AAA games ported over that they just did at home,
and this
in hours. Like, and they didn't do, and they don't run particularly fantastic, but these are people who did it in under a day at their house.
Yeah, you're crowdsourcing game development, game porting, which I think is like really cool if it allows people to do this. Like, the fact that technology, that software has actually gotten to this point, I think is really remarkable. It's like case in point, Moore's law, like in action of just, you can brute force this level of like hardware translation, software translation, code translation in real time. Like, this was unthinkable, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. The fact that this is even a thing.
It says here that the new game porting toolkit provides an emulation environment to run your existing unmodified Windows games, and you can use it to quickly understand the graphics, feature usage, and performance potential of your game when running on a Mac. So it kind of sounds like you like port it over, it analyzes it, and tells you like the potential maximum usage of what the software might be, and then you can configure it to run in a specific way, like dedicate certain amounts of resources to it or something like that. It's very interesting. And honestly, this is crazy too. It already supports DirectX 12 games, which is like that's super new.
That's big. I mean, that's the current graphics API for Windows. Right. Everything is being built on DirectX 12 now.
This is cool. This is super cool. I might try and get Diablo 4 running on my Mac later just to see.
Yeah, just do it as a test.
I got it on my Steam Deck. Traveling the next couple of days.
And that's the exact kind of thing. We have the ability with from Proton on Linux. You can literally download Battle.net and have it in the exe, the Windows executable, and have it download Diablo 4, all Windows files, all a Windows executable, and run it in Proton, and it works on the Steam Deck. It's pretty insane. They did not make that game for Linux. It just works on Linux because of Proton, which is pretty nuts.
It's really interesting too. Like I think a lot of people don't know Mac OS is very similar to Linux because the root of both of them is Unix. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of similarities when you're developing things around any kind of Unix based system. So it's interesting to see. I wonder if they straight up looked at Valve's, because the Proton project is open source. I bet they just looked at this and said, we can actually use this. We're already a Unix system. Proton's based on a Unix system. Mm-hmm. It was probably, once they probably had it, they probably were able to integrate it in a super meaningful way. And now they're unleashing a new product with it. It's crazy. It's crazy.
I just think it's really cool to see Apple pushing their software forward like this in new ways, with this kind of focus on gaming, focus on new aspects of their hardware, their silicon, their chips. Like, it's cool to see, man. Like I said, I love Windows. I love Mac. I love all these platforms. I love Linux, and I love seeing the competition where it's not it's funny to say not a walled garden when you're talking about Apple, but, opening up more platforms for gaming, for entertainment, I just think is really cool in the PC sphere.
It's going to be really interesting to see how it affects things for Mac and gaming on Mac. And also, it'll be really interesting to see how I do think that this was announced with the intent of having things come to Vision, the Apple Vision Pro. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it is. It's an odd name.
Yeah, it is an odd name. But I think they have that intent as well. I so badly, like I'm already like, yo, I want like a Plucky Squire AR port where he just like jumps off of like
on your
like
desk,
he's interacting with like your I think AR is super cool. I've always been super big on it. Honestly, like I always thought AR was cooler than VR just from a utility standpoint. And I think Apple is jumping into that realm of like, yeah, there's a lot of utility here. I'm interested. I like you said, they're gonna, they're targeting consumers, but I'm interested to see if they're gonna target more B2B, more enterprise, more academia. Will they have their salespeople hitting up colleges trying to buy them?
Yeah.
It's as teaching tools.
Yeah.
It's gonna be It's gonna be really interesting. Like I don't think people really realize the capability of AR. Like they'll be able to use it for like. I'm sure we'll get to a point where you can even use it for like shooting training. You know what I mean? Like like target practice. You know what I mean? But like,
I'm sure the U.S. military is probably watching that presentation. Like,
there's going to be so much utility around it. I'm excited for the first step. It feels like a first step to me, and I think there's a lot of people who look at it and they're just like, it kind of
who's going to buy this? Yeah,
who's going to buy it? And I think people are repelled from the advancement of technology, but there's no stopping the train, man. There's no stopping, and I also wonder what Twitter would have been like if it was here when the iPhone 1 was announced. I feel like it would have got fucking ragged on.
There's a great, you can actually go back. There's like old forums that still have threads from when like the first iPhone was announced, like even Apple like fan forums. And they're so funny to go back to because you see, and like these people were perfectly justified at the time in their opinions, but looking back on it, there were some people were just like, this is utterly ridiculous. Like this is a joke. They're going to cancel this product line in like 6 months. No one's going to buy this. Like, what are they doing? And then
why would I spend $400 on a phone that does everything my
computer already does, or my flip phone does,
And I think that's where we are right now. I really do. I think that's where we are right in this moment.
Yeah, I think that's why I keep going back to spatial computing. I think is a very smart way of branding it because people have opinions about VR, virtual reality. They even might have an opinion about AR, but like spatial computing. It's like the branded kind of thing that always gets into people's heads.
No, it's super cool. All right, let's jump over to a different company. We gotta pour one out, man. We gotta pour one out for good old GameStop.
They've been through it.
They've been through it, man.
They've really been through it.
GameStop, who Kotaku, this is really funny. Kotaku has as GameStop.
I was confused there for a second too.
GameStop fire CEO as a meme stock plummets. This is actually from like 30 minutes ago. Probably.
Yeah, this is hot, fresh content. This is
hot off the presses. GameStop has terminated CEO Matt Furlong and announced that meme stock investor and super stock cult hero Ryan Cohen will take over as executive chairman. Wait, is that real? I didn't even read that.
Yeah.
The famous brick and mortar gaming retailer's stock price proceeded to drop over 15% in after-hours trading. The news comes as the company reported a disappointing first quarter for its 2023 fiscal year, despite being profitable for the first time in years back in February. Oh, I didn't know that. That's actually kind of promising. GameStop is back in the red with a net loss of $50.5 million for the period and canceled its planned call with analysts to discuss the results.
This is a roller coaster of an article.
Wait, this sounds like they're wrapping it up the doors. Yeah, what the hell? That's just a third of what the losses were this time last year, but still pours cold water on the hopes that the company would quickly and radically transform itself into something that than a business that sells physical games in a marketplace where players are increasingly pivoting to digital downloads. Yeah, dude, this is why Alan Wake's going digital only. Okay, like come on.
they saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah,
they knew the stock was going to fall.
They saw the graffiti up on the game stonk. All right.
It's crazy, man. Like this company has been through so much, like all the meme stuff, the Wall Street bets, everything. Like it's hard to even imagine this separated from all of the insanity that the stock has gone through. I wish they would get it together, because like having a physical place to go and buy and talk about games is great. I feel like they've fumbled the bag on it for so many years that it just, I always feel sad when I go into a GameStop. Do you feel the same way? Like there's something sad about it. Like it's
very sad.
Yeah.
It's really sad. And it used to, I go back and forth on it. Like there's, I agree with you. I think there is something special about having a place to go and talk about games that's like very special. But, when we were young, when we were kids, like there was no digital option. There was no other place to go. It was GameStop that was there, or EB Games.
Yeah, electronics boutique, man.
Yeah,
it was at my local mall.
It was great. I think I liked EB Games more actually, but
yeah, I did too.
But I loved going to GameStop. It was the best. Like I knew the people that worked at my local GameStop, and like even just from going with my mom up through I was a teenager, like I knew the people that worked there. Bob at the Wolf Den worked at our local GameStop too.
Wow.
But like, it's a new age. It's a new age, and I think I'm surprised they're still around. Really, they have done zero effort to adapt to like the changing market. And I think, like you said, having a place to go is huge. I think there's such a big hole for that no one really is touching. Yeah. And I think GameStop's still in a position to where they could do that, but I think they have to go all in on it. A couple of years ago, I feel like I remember them saying they wanted to convert all of their GameStops to like a community place that would have like, TVs and playable consoles and stuff. And I think I saw like one or two of them do it, but then I feel like they kind of gave up on it. And I really do think this. I think GameStop should be a place that hosts Smash Ultimate tournaments, local Smash Ultimate tournaments, Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments on the weekends. Like every day at a GameStop, there should be a different event. They should like get contractors in their remaining stores, convert part of the store to be a communal space. Like if there's a vacant store next to you, buy that, knock it down, make the entire second half a communal tournament thing. Like that's, you know what I mean? You have to become, at this point, to become a serious store in a market like this, you have to be a part of the community where you exist. Yeah. Because otherwise people have no interest in going to the store. Like people have no interest in going to stores.
Yeah,
there's no reason there's no reason for them to do it. You need to like be more of a communal hub, which is something they said they wanted to do, then they just didn't do it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would work. I do feel like that would work because there's only a handful of places that you can go to do those things, or you go to like card shops. They might need some like air fresheners, but yeah, I think if they did that, they could actually survive or in some form. I don't know. They're never going to be, the Titan that they were in 2003.
Yeah, but like no one is probably in this.
Yeah, no one is.
Unless they change.
Yeah, nobody is. And like, make yourself like, like the place where people go to buy. Oh my God, I can't believe they have a copy of, I don't know. I can't believe they have like an unopened copy of Pokemon Crystal on the, you know what I mean? Like for sale under the glass case. Like it should be like a collector's store almost at this point. Like you have to, it should feel like you're going into a local mom and pop card shop.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't have a business degree. I'm sure I don't know how any of this stuff works, but like I imagine that the same way, hone in on those certain things. Like, you probably have to close some locations. I'm sure you can't necessarily have, hundreds of thousands of those sorts of things, but something that feels more like, a place to go that feels like it has maybe shifted into some kind of like a luxury space or something, like the Apple approach, where like you go to the Apple Store to feel cool. It feels cool when you walk in, like it's clean, it's bright. Like every time I go to a GameStop, it just feels like it's about to close.
It feels like 1998. It's got the same, and every GameStop has the same old paneling, same carpet, paneling, same old paneling, because it's to hang stuff. But it's just like, dude, I'm gonna hang myself in there. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But like, dude, it's just, yeah. I think if they really want to stay open, if they're serious about the industry that they're in, the community that they want to be in, they need to become a part of the community. They need to. I would love to have a GameStop where I could go on Saturdays and see like what new old vintage things they have in stock.
Yeah,
that would be awesome, because I used to love doing that to card shops. I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh when I was like 13. I used to go to tournaments on Saturday. I would like look at under the case and see all the like rares that they had for like $30 a piece, and I would be like, oh my god, if only I had $25 to buy that Time Wizard, which eventually I did. Yeah, but it's like that should be the feeling I get when I go to a GameStop.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree completely. Like, I'm not someone who's saying like, oh, protect the corporation here, but they're, in a way, GameStop is kind of like one of the last bastions of like physical media in the gaming industry. Like a place that, they sell Funko Pops and stuff too, but like sells games, just sells boxes of games. And if they shut down for good, then, what else do we have here in America, at least? Like Best Buy, Walmart, Target.
And there are some cool local mom and pop game stores too that do feel like what I'm describing, but they're so far and few between that I don't even think GameStop doing this would like be that harmful for them, at least not now. But I think GameStop should try and do that, but I don't think they will. I think GameStop will be gone within 5 years, if that.
Yeah, they're probably just going to wind up just liquidating whatever the hell they got.
And it's a bummer, because it's such a important part of my relationship to games. Same. Like my growing up, like everything.
Midnight releases. I
have such a soft spot for GameStop.
Yeah. I remember,
and those motherfuckers are going to take ThinkGeek down with them.
Oh God, you're right. I forgot they own it.
That's how they started selling the Funko Pops and all that stuff. And ThinkGeek was awesome. I just didn't have adult money to buy anything.
What a bummer.
I know.
I have such a vivid memory of going to, like, in the car on the way to the electronics boutique at the local mall to get a copy of Pokemon Gold. It was like November 2000. Oh God, like going in the store, walking down the aisle, like looking at the strategy guides, the big box PC games, like all those sorts of things. It's just, oh God, it's fun.
Awesome. It was awesome, so fun, dude.
And, obviously a lot of that's just nostalgia, like, the industry's changed, digital purchases and stuff, but you can still have a place to go. I don't know. Like we need people fighting for that physical media, for that place, because otherwise we're just going to be living in our Apple Vision Pros for the rest of our lives. Yeah. Buying our digital games.
Okay, let's move on from GameStop. Pour one out. We'll see how it goes with those guys.
Pour one out for the homies at GameStop.
Moving on to the next one here. Let's see what we got. Back to the beginning, just as we were earlier. Diablo IV launches immediately, sets new record as Blizzard Entertainment's fastest selling game of all time. That's crazy. Yeah, and I will say it is insane how many people I see playing Diablo 4 on Twitch. How many people are interested in it? Like, I didn't think, I don't know. I didn't expect Diablo to have this much interest on like a grand scale. And you know what? It's got to be the strong female lead. I believe in it. Mommy Lilith, there
front
she
and
is.
Center. Yeah, it's big
Look
mommy
at her,
energy.
In all her beauty.
People love a Dami mommy.
She's awesome.
That's 2023 summed up. It's funny that you say that. Like Diablo. Yeah, imagine if he was on the cover.
Picture of Inarius, by the way. A picture of Inarius for the audio listeners.
It's easy to think like, because Blizzard releases things so infrequently in general, but like especially Diablo games, that it's easy to if you're not someone who's like a fan or thinking about it, to forget about it. But Diablo 3 actually had an equally gigantic launch when it first came out too, and there weren't even console versions at the time. It only came out on PC back then.
Diablo 3 was only PC?
Yeah, the console ports
I didn't even know that.
Until much later. Initially,
that's 10
that was
years ago when people didn't even nobody had gaming PCs relative to today.
I mean, the PS4 and the Xbox One weren't even out yet at the time. So the first versions came out on
That's
like the PS3 and the
insane.
360. Yeah. There was controversy at the time because people were like, no, this is a PC franchise. Like, how is it even going to work on a controller? Then lo and behold, it's great on a controller.
It feels great. It honestly
Yeah.
feels great on a controller, and which makes me happy for the Steam Deck. And
Yeah.
I
I
played a
think
little
like,
bit on the Steam Deck. It almost feels like it's made for handheld. It's so good because it's like top
yeah, yeah.
down. It's so good. Oh my god.
It's crazy how well this franchise does, how good how well Blizzard games sell as well in general. Like I think they've got oomph from the marketing. I think a lot of that comes down to that too. Like there's you know billboards, there's TV ads and stuff like that, but just I don't know, there's more people who dig these franchises and their aesthetic and the names of stuff, they just know about it and don't act on it until a new one comes
Yeah.
out, and then they come out of the woodwork and they buy it and they play it. Like
Yeah.
I'm even surprised by this too because it's been so long since Diablo 3 came out. It's crazy to me.
Exactly. And I think we're seeing a lot of IPs like they're kind of getting a lot of IPs that haven't had a modern swing are getting their
Mhm.
modern swing, and I think with the elevation and more people that are getting into gaming now, I
Yeah.
think people are more and more excited to do that.
Yeah,
So
that's a good point too. I mean, there's also just more people playing games than ever before as well. And this has the advantage of Diablo 4 coming out on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S.
just
Yeah,
grand.
play this wherever the hell you own a console,
Oh yeah,
except for the
exactly.
Switch.
Just
Rest in peace. But
the entry points are huge for the mass market.
yeah,
It's
and
huge.
like if you're someone with a PS4, like you're not exactly getting like tons of big new releases these days. So
Yeah,
if this comes out,
you're
it's like
grabbing
front
it.
and center, yeah, on the storefront. You're like, sure, that sounds cool. Then you grab it, and bada boom.
Diablo 4, the highly anticipated new installment of the iconic Diablo series, is now live. Already, it's Blizzard's fastest selling game of all time, with Blizzard's highest pre-launch unit sales ever on both console and PC. In the 4
Crazy.
days since early access started on June 1st, Diablo 4 has been played for 93 million hours, or over 10,000 years, the equivalent of playing 24 hours a day since the beginning of human civilization.
That is such a funny sentence.
It's insane. I would love to see more games relate their launch hours to the start of
To
human
years in
civilization.
the dawn of civilization. Like, oh yeah, more people have played Halo since like humankind first learned to write.
Yeah, yeah. It's like when you see diagrams like showing how big Earth is relative to the other planets and sun and
Yeah,
moon
yeah,
and
yeah. Give
stars.
me like line bar charts of like years since the dawn of man that
Um,
people have been playing like Overwatch.
let's see what Blizzard had to say. This is a moment years in the making for the Diablo 4 team, said Rod Ferguson, general manager of Diablo. Imagine having that on your LinkedIn, general manager, comma, Diablo. We're extremely proud to offer players the nichest story ever told in a Diablo game. Players have a range of choices, including personal character customization, equipping personalized skills, blah, 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 collecting legendary loot. Since the game was first announced in 2019, the support from millions of players around the world drove us towards this release of our dark vision of Sanctuary. Hail Lilith, blessed mother.
The man stays a
True.
character.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm excited to see where they go. I think the biggest thing that excites me about this game is to have. I know we rag on service games a lot, but since we're in the age of service games, I'm excited to have a service game that's not a shooter. Like I
Yeah,
think that's one of the
that's a
most
really good point.
interesting things to me. And I know
Yeah.
MMOs fall under this category of technically they're service games, but I put like MMOs in a different category. I'm talking about
Yeah,
like
I do the same.
yeah, I'm talking about like battle pass based service games. Like
Yeah, like
can
this
I even
is
can you even name one that's not a shooter?
not honestly. I'd probably have to dig pretty deep to Fall Guys. That's like the only one I can
Fall
think
Guys,
of off the top
or
of my
maybe
head.
does Genshin have battle pass? I don't even think Genshin has a battle pass. I think it just
Rocket
gets new
League.
content with cosmetics.
Do you shoot in Genshin? I thought that was like a third-person shooter.
No, I'm saying it's not a shooter.
Oh, gotcha.
No,
Oh, I thought it
Genshin's
was.
like Breath of the
I've never played it.
Wild service game.
Oh, interesting. I mean,
Yeah,
I've actually never played it. Maybe I should.
I think they just keep expanding it, and it's like always free, but
Mm.
the cosmetics just like fuel that game.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. Like, if we're in this live service hellscape version of the industry, so like, give us some cool ones. You know what I mean? Like, give us some cool
Yeah,
new platforms. I love Diablo, and the fact that hopefully they stick the landing in the long run with like, expansion seasons and that kind of thing. Cause I love the game. I love the gameplay. I love the style. So,
I love the style.
giving
It's
me
so
more of
fun.
it to come back to, I think would be great. I haven't played it yet. I'm curious, more of your kind of takeaway of it so far and your experience with it. Do you think those big sales numbers are justified, and how much fun you're having and talking about it with folks?
So far, I do, but it's kind of a thing where time will tell.
Yeah.
I played it a bunch on Twitch already, over on twitch.tv/NoBananaSuits. I'll be playing more there tonight. Um, and I think I'll be playing it for a while. At least until Final Fantasy 16 comes out, which is in 15 days. Then I'll maybe split my time. But so far, like I started out. The map is gigantic. I started out, was getting very sidetracked on side quests and all these different things, kind of grinding out dungeons with people because everyone's just so excited to get in there and just start playing.
Yeah, of course.
And that was super fun. But I wanted to grind out the story because there's some things that I wanted to. I didn't know when I'd get them. I won't spoil when you get them, but just things like you're going to eventually get a mount. Like you find that out.
Certain
you will
systems,
get a mount
character
pretty
systems, and
immediately. Stuff. And I wanted to get my mount because I thought maybe that'll help me find more Lilith statues easier, I can go bop around side quests easier, and that it does make a big difference. But so I went and grinded out the story. I thought the story was really enjoyable. There's some like slow parts, but for the most part, I thought it was really cool. I don't have like other Diablo games to relate it to because I haven't played them, but from what I've heard from people who have played them is that this is like the most story in a Diablo story, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Yeah, so it was cool, like super dark, super like
sweet.
I'm trying to think of it's almost like who's the guy who does like Hellraiser and all those like
Clive Barker, yeah.
Oh, Clive Barker. And who's the guy who does like The Fly, and he just did like that Crimes of Tomorrow. He does like all the body horror stuff.
David Lynch?
No.
I think like a Eraserhead.
It's what's his name? Cronenberg.
Like, word. Yeah,
not that gross, but like it gets pretty gross. It gets pretty bloody, like gruesome, like a lot of flesh, makes me happy. Like flesh doors and skin curtains, and just like ugh.
There's this really unique
squirming the whole time you're playing this game.
There's this aesthetic from like basically the 90s, where I feel like a lot of people were making PC games who also loved like black metal and like all this kind of like post 80s satanic panic stuff. It was like a fight back against that. You had Doom, Quake, Diablo. There's like this really unique kind of like gothic body horror aesthetic that I love in these franchises, and I felt like that was really missing from Diablo 3. So I'm thrilled to hear you say that that's back in a big way, because like I love that, man. Like that's the franchise to me. Diablo is this like dark, gothic, almost like allegorical kind of thing, which I think is just fantastic.
And I think there's a large focus on like blood and like and how blood just like relates to the world and like hell and the heavens, and how like we as these like lesser beings are caught in between the war of those two things, and does it like matter at all? And it's
damn, dude, just like America 2023.
Yeah, dude, exactly. But it was great. I really enjoyed it. The campaign, it has its low parts. There's some parts where you're like, maybe a little too many fetch quests.
Going through the motions.
But it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. And now I'm at a point where I'm just kind of like, I'm actually excited. I'm not here for the rest of the week because I want people to catch up, because I want to have people to like grind stuff out with around like level 50 and do.
You're in like the what's a good way to describe it? Like not the servicey part, but like what you would consider to be kind of like, now you're, you hiked up the hill and now you're climbing the mountain.
Exactly.
As you kind of get to in these MMO adjacent kind of things.
There's so much to do in each area of the map, just like side dungeons wise, collecting all the Lilith statues, like, and those, when you do those things, it unlocks like permanent account bonuses for any future character you make.
That I love. I love that they've really embraced more account stuff, because like Blizzard hasn't always done that.
They know that people are making multiple characters, and they don't want you to have to like grind as hard every time. So once you get all those rewards for doing that stuff, you'll have your next character can have up to like 10 skill points off the jump, which is great.
Very nice.
That kind of stuff is super cool. But getting that stuff is kind of a grind. I'm a little worried that like the dungeon grinding will become very monotonous over time, but we'll see. We'll have to see. I mean, it's that's why like I'm very excited to do this with people, with friends, and
Yeah.
like it's one of those things where like you just see your character getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah,
And it's like
That's
it's super cool to like go through that.
that's
So
always been the joy of those games, I think, in a lot of ways, is like, just seeing those incremental bits of upgrades, especially if
yeah,
you find something that gives you like a cool new perk, you can kind of make your
right.
build around it, or even just like, just playing it with friends and like hours melt away where you're just mindlessly killing
Yeah,
thousands of
there's
enemies.
a
Like,
lot of systems in this game, a
yeah,
lot, and they don't particularly like they kind of throw them at you incrementally, but at the same time,
yeah,
it's hard to get a system thrown at you at level 15 and level 20, and then a campaign and 30 levels later, you're like supposed to remember that you can like take the perk off a
yeah,
legendary and like store it and then put it on a
yeah.
rare to make
Put
that
the
rare
thingy on your
legendary.
thingy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can there's gems you can remove and add gems, you can add gem sockets, you can take the legendary perks off and put them on other ones, you can upgrade rares to legendaries, you can take the stats off of a weapon or gear and put that on another piece of gear, you can enchant stuff. There's a whole like stat system once you hit level 50 beyond just the talent trees and the gear. It's like there is
insane.
a lot of systems, there's a lot, and I'm still getting accustomed to them.
Yeah.
um but like you said, all those things, all those you tweak things, and like all this is like working on a car. You're just like making all these little tweaks in all these different places that,
That's
and
actually a good
then
analogy.
it
Yeah,
all comes together in
yeah.
your build, and you just
Like
you have this meaty whirlwind
yeah.
barbarian man.
I might actually use that analogy. It kind of speaks to me. It's like a car that you're tinkering with. You're like changing, you're tuning, and you love it, and you get this kind of emotional connection to it because you're just like, you're making it your own, and like that's kind of how your character is in these like ARPG kind of things.
It's yeah, it's really cool. And like we said, it is a service game. So one thing that we noticed was
Yeah, we had to follow up the good news of the
yeah,
sales and the quality of the game with, of course, the fact that Blizzard is doing some pretty, these go beyond microtransactions. Like these are macro transactions in a $70 game
in a
with a
$70 game.
$100 version.
Yeah.
I haven't played yet. I haven't really looked around in the store. I don't know how egregious these or in your face these are. But just the pricing, like, we've gone from when, people would laugh at, a $2 to $5 armor pack in a game being like, that's outrageous, to now you've got $20 to $30 skins in, a full price game. And it's like,
yes, this isn't a full price game. But we see 30, 40, 50, 60, $70 knife skins in Valorant
and CSGO
and
spending thousands.
people are not like, oh wow, like wow, how would Valorant, like the general consensus of people who play Valorant, they're just like, oh yeah,
Yeah, that's just
and
how
that's
it
it.
is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We've just come to accept this stuff. It's crazy. Like the name of this, the headline of this article. Well, this is an opinion piece. Diablo 4's $21 bone guy armor is just another reminder of how numb we've gotten to microtransaction hell. This is on PC Gamer. They've actually been pretty critical of the game in general. I think.
Interesting.
I think they like it, but I think they're trying to be a bit harsher on these sorts of systems, which is, hey man, good for them. I'm glad some people are commenting on it. This person might have more of a bone to pick, but I think you can't really argue with the fact that like these are crazy prices. That's like half the cost of the game for an armor set in a game where the core content is getting cool armor, and weapons and stuff. So
yeah, 100%. And I will say, like, I definitely feel numb to it in this game. Like, I think I do think there's a $70 experience there for
sure.
if you just want to play Diablo and you want to, if you do the campaign straight up, I don't know if that's a $70 experience, but I think if you do the campaign and all of the dungeons and all of the strongholds that are available to you, and it's weird because like once you complete the campaign, it is a pretty much like pure online experience from that point on, like
Yeah.
a lot of these things like world bosses spawning in the world and different events that can happen in the world, all of that is based on an online timer, and you do that with other people who show up to these events. And I think if you do the campaign and you clear out the map, you do those events, you do all the dungeons, the strongholds, kill some world bosses, I do think there's a $70 experience there. So from my point of view, like after that, everything else is now you're in service land.
You're the kingdom of servicetopia.
Yeah, exactly. But I think with games at this point, I view my time like I view my time as like $1 an hour now, with like and I try to compare like games to going to see a movie in the theater.
Yeah.
If I'm going to go see a movie in a theater for $20, $20, in some places like $25, 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
That's like $12.50 an hour or whatever, or $10 to $12 an hour. If I spent 50 hours in Diablo probably already, and I'm not even close to done at 70, what is that, like $1.80 I'm spending an hour-ish, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there's far worse investments you could make for that amount of money.
Yeah, exactly. So I think like the investment is there. Like I think, and I kind of do this with like most games now, and I kind of use going to see a movie as my baseline always, because that is something that I also enjoy doing. But like again, it's $20 for 2 hours of your time versus $60-$70 for potentially 50 to 100 to $200. I mean, hours of entertainment for you. I don't know if that's a bad way to look at it. Some people might think that's like too business transactionally for them, but that's kind of how I look at it. Like I don't feel particularly ripped off by games unless I feel like I've sunken under that value of cost per hour scaled next to a movie. Like, you know what I mean? If I'm entertained for the same rate of a movie, then I don't feel ripped off.
Yeah, it's interesting. That is always tough. I go back and forth on that, like, how I justify the cost, because like it's so, you can try to give it an objective measurement like that, which I think I do the same thing, but there's also just like so much of it is subjective too, like
100%.
There's been times where I've spent, $60 or $70 on a game that, was like 10 hours, around there, maybe shorter, maybe a little bit longer. And like something about it was just so fantastic within that experience that I was perfectly comfortable with that.
But even then there's something even like, under that, a 6-hour game for $60, that's $10. That's $10 like that's still great.
Compared to other things,
that's still so much better. That, like, you know what I mean, compared to other things.
That's. And I think that's where, like, we get to the core issue. I think that a lot of people, myself included, have with macro transactions like this, is if you're saying, okay, I'm spending $70 on this game. I didn't buy the deluxe turbo ass blaster edition. I just got the $70 version, and I'm potentially getting hundreds of hours of fun over time. And then there is a cosmetic armor set that does nothing but just looks cool, and it's like $25, and it's like you can't even equate that to fun. It's not an activity, it's not content in the same way that like the software is. It's like you're just buying a pretty thing. It's almost like buying a pair of shoes or like a handbag or something, you know what I mean? Even those you get more, it's hard, it's tough to quantify, because like that is the cost. That's like, such a large fraction of the actual cost of the software, that at this point, like, how high is this going to go? People are buying it. These things are in these games because people are buying it. They're making billions of dollars off of these transactions.
Right.
How high is it going to go? Are they going to start, not just Blizzard, but like other companies too, like
everybody,
$30
Assassin's Creed Valhalla has this, and that's not even an online game like that.
That's
you don't even no one's seeing your $20 skin pack in Valhalla. Like that makes it makes even less sense. It makes even less sense. But like no, I agree with you. But for me personally, like I don't mind the games having this. For an online game, if people want to spend their money to look cooler in the world, sure, that that's what you want to buy. That's what you want to buy.
Yeah.
My issue with it comes now when everything that you get in the game looks like shit.
Yes.
Like it has no effort put into it compared to what you can buy in the store.
Yeah.
And I don't think we know yet if Diablo will go that route. But like that to me is when it becomes an issue, when like when we played WoW in 2005, 2006 or whatever, the coolest looking things you could get were the hardest things to earn.
Yeah. Everybody looked like shit. And if you saw someone who looked cool and actually had like coordinated armor, there was a correlation between, honestly, at that point, really skill, I think. Because like, you know, you could get carried into some, you know, high level dungeon raid content like Molten Core and stuff.
For the most part.
But yeah, you had to be like dedicated to it.
Yes.
And, you know, blah, 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 nerds dedicating a bunch of time. Like some people just want to pay money and look cool right off the bat. But like, that takes the fun out of it.
It takes the fun out of it. And you see somebody wearing it. You're like, oh, that means nothing. When you see someone in 2006 in WoW who had the hardest level raid difficulty end game armor from the final boss, you were like, not only does that look cool, but it is just so cool to see. Because it was
emblematic of dedication.
A symbol. Yes, it's a symbol of them achieving something that most people cannot do in the game.
Yeah, it's a digital status symbol, and you know, we're seeing like with this, where you know it's all about just looking cool, making your character look cool, and like if they offer more ways to do that, that's good. But there's also like, I don't know, it's just so weird. Like you see like a level 2 barbarian running around in like, you know, ultimate god Skeletor gear, and you just know that person spent like $25 in the shop on it, and like that's just,
it's boring. Yawn.
It's boring. It's just, it's like seeing like Twitter blue, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say I'm never gonna buy something in the Diablo shop.
I can't say the same. I can't promise that too. Like there might be something that looks really cool,
and I've already done it. I've already bought 2 horses, so I don't really know what you're looking for.
I had the thought, like, as I've played, you know, 140 hours of Tears of the Kingdom, and there's a lot of armor. Like, there's a lot of, like, really cool looking armor sets in that game. And I had the thought where, like, you know, Nintendo has a ton of issues, but I can never fault them for not releasing, like, generally speaking, like, finished products.
Yeah.
Like, I was just imagining if, I don't know how many there are. Let's say there's like 20 armor sets in Tears of the Kingdom, which it kind of feels like there are. It's a $70 game. And like, for me, a lot of the fun is finding those, collecting them, making Link look cool. And I was just thinking like, you know, if they could have taken 1 or 2 of these out and had them be like 99 cents, $2.99 on the eShop, and like people would buy them, but like
so many armor sets in the game.
Yeah, that's the thing is, it's like you could say, like there's that feel. I feel respected as a gamer, as a consumer, as someone who bought this experience and got like a complete gameplay experience, but also like a fun cosmetic experience. I didn't feel like I was nickel and dimed because they're abusing some part of my brain that wants some cool looking shiny thing, you know? And I don't know if I could even rise above that if I were a game developer, because there's the question of like ethics, you know, if I take some of the content out and sell it additionally, I could make like another $10 million off my game.
Yeah.
How do I say no to that? You know, how does anyone say no to that? You have to like, I don't know. It's like regulations. I don't even know how we stop this snowball from rolling down the hill with cosmetics and transactions and swiping the card.
I think there's no stopping it. I think there's only slowing it down to the point where games will only do it when they are intending to be primarily something servicey, or we will just see like less service games being released. Because a lot of them are starting. I think we're seeing more of a trend of them shutting down quickly.
Within like 6 months.
Yeah, and also just getting like destroyed from reviews. Like Avengers, Anthem, Redfall was not a service game, but it might as well have been. It was going to be one, right? It had the DNA of it, exactly. Back for Blood, like there are some horror stories out there, and I think all we can hope for is that they become lessons for the industry. I have a feeling Suicide Squad is going to be another one.
Oh God, I keep forgetting that game's even coming out. Jeez, that's going to be like the canary in the coal mine. Oh, we're past the canary at this point. You know, that's going to be like the miners dying in the mine, like
There,
whether that game crashes and burns or not.
so coming back to Diablo, like I do think people are numb to it. I feel like I'm
Yeah,
even in that group, but I think personally, I feel like this is the kind of service game, if we're gonna have them, that like needs to exist, coexist with like the shooters services.
mm-hmm.
And I think it kind of makes sense to have the shop as it does, especially if we're going to be
Yeah.
getting a lot of free content later.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Well,
I think all the
yeah.
story stuff is supposed to be free updates. I think
That's one of the big questions. Is like, you know, do you feel like if are they going to use the profits from this to
yes,
obviously line some
exactly.
pockets, but like, are they going to put it back into creating
The game,
great content for the game? Like in that case, then hell yeah. Like that's one of the reasons that I fell off of Destiny 2. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that, but like I felt personally like, you know, they have so many ways of monetizing that game. They've really weaponized like a lot of addictive stuff, and you know they've really like mastered the service thing. Bungie has, and like I don't think that they are the returns from that. All the money they're making go back to making really good content. I felt like that really dropped off,
yeah.
and for me, then I feel like I'm getting ripped off. I'm like, well, what am I even paying for at that point? Whereas in this, it's like if you're putting out like great cool story content, you've given me reasons to come back, then like sure, if some, you know, person spends a couple $100 on skins, then like, you know, whatever, like
Yeah,
fun, cool content.
And don't get it twisted either. Like people who look at Destiny as a success story, the only reason Destiny is successful is because it was first. That is the only reason. Like, and I don't mean successful as a game in the way it launched, because I think the base game that Bungie launched would have been successful either way.
Yeah,
I mean successful success from their service elements that kind of dripped in over time. Like
the long term.
The long term stuff.
Yeah, they had a lot of time to innovate in that space because there wasn't the competition. They really they kind of had that leg up.
So apparently Diablo is going to get additional story content every 3 months. That's really
that's ambitious, man. I mean, whew, we'll see.
I don't know if that's paid or not. That's where it gets like tricky with the store. Is like,
yeah,
either you have to make that content cheaper or free. Like if that's like $30 every 3 months, and you have the store with all that stuff, like you can't.
Then it feels like you're getting nickel and dimed.
Yeah, you have to use the, like you said, the profits you're getting to respect the players who are like in your ecosystem. Until you do like a big expansion, and then you have people buy the expansion. Like basically, if you're gonna try and have MMO elements to the point of like, you know, the way that WoW is set up, or any MMO, you have to at least provide the content updates in between the expansions. So I could see Diablo having like smaller patch content updates like Final Fantasy 14 or WoW, and then an expansion once every year or two. I think that's fine. Yeah. But like doing paid content every 3 months and having the store, that feels like kind of ludicrous to me in a gut sense. But we'll see.
We're just in such a weird place in the industry where things have changed so much that the expectation with these things, or at least what developers and, you know, publishers are trying to do, is get people always playing your game. They want that to be like your game that you are either always playing or that you come back to like every month, every couple of weeks, every 3 months, versus back in the day, like, you know, Diablo 2 that had one expansion. And that was it, you know, and that was the game. And they patched it and stuff like that over time, but like it still kept that community. And there was the expectation that, you know, you finish a game and then come back if something new came to it, or revisit it, that kind of thing. And, you know, there was just less on the market. Whereas now, like, there's so many games, there's so much competition. There's this sense of like, you need to constantly have people be playing your game. Like I'm imagining, like, I'm not planning on playing Diablo like every day for the rest of my life, as much as I love it. Like I would probably do what I did with Diablo 3, which is play a lot of it, put it down for a while, come back if there's an expansion, revisit it here and there. But it's like, who knows? Like if this is a genuinely a really compelling service game, then like maybe it will be the thing that I come back to every couple of weeks,
or you have
every
longer
3 months,
stretches with like Fortnite, like WoW, like Valorant, where you'll play for 3-4 months, put it down, step away for a while, come back for a month, put it down, come back for 3 months, put it down. I could see that being I could honestly see this game being in my rotation if it's compelling enough. So that's I just looked something up, and we can wrap up after this, but so it said, speaking with Game Informer, Blizzard associate game director Joe Pipioro has shed some light on the team's plans for Diablo 4's post-launch content. I think this is from April of last year, so this is kind of an older article. This is from it's from last month, April 12th, 2023.
All right.
Cool.
Fresh
post-launch content, which will come as free and premium content. So this is where we get into the toe tipping. For free content, we can expect to see seasonal updates applied every 3 months that will introduce small story additions to tie in new gameplay mechanics and more complex systems to the ever-growing world of Sanctuary. These quarterly updates will be accompanied by a new battle pass, which will have free and premium tracks you to work through, both of which will offer cosmetic items. The first season won't go live until sometime after Diablo's launch, which we know is about mid-July. The seasonal updates will fill the gap between purchasable expansions. That will include a much larger amount of content Diablo 4 launches on. Okay, so they are doing expansion round. So this, I think they're going to be trying to tiptoe the line. It sounds like they're walking on a tightrope with this.
They're going the Bungie route. It sounds like, of like, hey, here's like some seasonal stuff, but like the big content you got to pony up for.
I think this is like the best way to look at it. Will Diablo 4 go the Bungie route, or will they go the Final Fantasy 14 route? Like how /WoW? Like which one will Diablo be? Because you're going to either be a game with absolute, and listen, I know not every WoW expansion is beloved, but I will say the past couple of years of Destiny seasonal expansion content, not the big expansions, like the smaller ones in between the seasons, are dog shit. Like I think they are like the amount of disrespect they have for the players makes them so much worse than the worst WoW expansion. I'm not even kidding. Like I think they are so embarrassingly greedy and bad that it's some of the worst value you can put into the video game industry as a player. So does Diablo become that with like really poorly thought out and not that much care put into its seasonal content, and then like expansions once a year? Or is it like Final Fantasy 14 WoW where you get one expansion but then all the patch content is like still good?
Good stuff.
It's still good stuff. Like it's still stuff that has weight and tries to impact the players in meaningful ways, not just like here's more of the exact same thing but more boring. Like that, I think that's like the line they need to focus around. It's like which one are you going to be, and it'll be interesting to see. Only time will tell.
That's a good question. I mean, we really are going to see, like, this is a fascinating time to be, watching all this stuff and keeping track of it. Cause like, if we're getting fun games, like we're going to have a blast with this game, regardless of what it turns into. Like you said, it seems like you get your money's worth, at least from, the initial launch experience, but like, which way is it going to go? Are we going to be, a year and a half from now or 2 years saying like, man, like this is just the best. Like I love coming back to Diablo. It's always so much fun. Like the content's great. The expansions have been killer so far. Or is it going to be that kind of thing of just like, you feel compelled to come back and it like kind of sucks. And, you're like, why am I even doing this? Aside from just sunk cost, is it going to be fun, or is it going to,
Yeah, we're going to find out. It'll be interesting to see.
I still have to play it.
I know. Hopefully next time we record, you'll have some hours so we can talk about it.
I think next week I will, because I'm pretty sure after this recording finishes, I might finish Tears of the Kingdom. We'll see.
Dude, text me right away. I'm excited.
And
then if you don't want to jump into Diablo, you can just step outside and see hell IRL because
the gates of the hell maw opening up.
The gates of hell are opening from the sky, raining down fire upon all of New York State.
Yeah, everybody on the Northeast, or honestly, even all the way down, like North Carolina, it's getting all the way down there. Like, everybody stay safe, stay indoors.
Stay safe. I'm going to buy an air purifier for my house just because...
I got mine going full blast right now.
Yeah, for my mom's house, just because, you got to watch out for the elderly, man. Don't tell her I said that, but...
I think like the elderly are the ones causing the problem.
Oh, yeah.
You got to watch out for the elderly.
They're angrily starting forest fires in Canada. But I don't know, just with everything between COVID and this, it just feels like the world's just like going to shambles. So an air purifier will fix it right up.
That's why I'm excited about the Apple Vision Pro, man. Who cares? Like, everything's falling apart. Just get excited about something.
Bye, everybody. Like we said, stay safe. You can catch me on twitch.tv/NoBananaSuits. You can catch Welsh at twitter.com/ or at SeanWelshBrown on Twitter. I'm also NoBananaSuits everywhere else. You can find us on YouTube at SRankPod, TikTok and Twitter as well at SRankPod, and every audio platform of your choice. Stay safe out there, and we will see you guys next week.
Peace.
Peace
and blessings.